Welcome to another video from Gweilo 60. I'm in the Landong area of Nanning, China here this afternoon, and it is so freaking hot outside. I'm just melting, but that's not what this video is about. I've been watching the news. Yes, I watch the news, and we get news in China from all over the world. I'm watching what's going on in the United States of America, and it's one of those things that's disturbing to watch. I know, go back, say a week and a half, where the Trump administration was dictating to the Hong Kong government, to the Chinese government about protesters and their right to riot. Then you go back a number of months and the United States making legislation against any Chinese officials that would counter the riots, the pro-freedom demonstrations, the pro-democracy demonstrations, whatever you want to call it. When you start burning people and throwing bricks and killing people, you start vandalizing, you start doing exactly what they're doing in the United States to date. It's June 1st at about 1:30 in the afternoon, China time. And to date, 4 people have died in the riots in the United States. I know, it's one of those things. In Chicago alone, there's 6 people being shot, and I think it was 249 people have been arrested. That's in one city. In the last couple of days, they have implemented, seriously, they have implemented curfews in 40 cities in the United States. Last Friday, your commander-in-chief, Donald Trump, the President of the United States, was shuffled off to an underground bunker for his safety because the riots and the fires out front of the White House, they were not sure that they could protect the President of the United States. Okay, and this is the administration that's dictating to the Chinese people how to deal with the riots in Hong Kong. Okay, so you've got, like, seriously, in the United States you have countrywide riots. What did they say? Oh, and this new security law that's going into Hong Kong, it will give the Chinese government the right to move their forces into Hong Kong to deal with civil unrest. And the United States was so upset they put sanctions against Hong Kong. They nixed the student visas, the postgrads and graduates, their visas from postgrad from 5 years down to 1 year. All of these different things were knee-jerk reactions and saying, you can't do that. So on day 2 of of the riots in Minnesota, the governor of Minnesota called in the National Guard. Yes, called in the National Guard after 2 days of riots. And Hong Kong has been going through, what, a year of riots? So that just shows you how quickly when the shoe is on the other foot, how quickly the American government changes their tactics, their mind. If it's to do with us, that's one thing. If it's to do with you, that's another thing. So when you're looking at double standards, the United States and China are an example, a perfect example of double standards. The Chinese aren't allowed to do something like that in the eyes of the Americans and the American people, or the Five Eyes, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, UK. And India's in there now too, so maybe there's 6 eyes, guys. We're gonna have to keep an eye on that. No pun intended. But see, that's just it. In the United States, things are getting serious. They can't control their own, but yet they're willing to tell other people how to control their own. And if this is what happens when you use the method of the United States, countrywide riots, then I guess you really don't want to use the tactics that the United States uses. Obviously, they don't work. Then you get to the people that are doing the rioting. How is killing other people? How is looting? How is vandalism? How is intimidation? How is all of this? Burning cars, burning houses, like going into Target stores and ransacking and taking everything out of them, among other stores. How is that going to make the killing of George Floyd any less hurtful? Sure, these police officers did commit murder or assisted in committing murder, and they should be charged, and they should be prosecuted, and they should go to jail for it. And there's no doubt in anybody's mind about that. But then again, remember 1992, the Rodney King beatings in Los Angeles, California, where everybody went frickin' nuts. And this went on for a long time. 63 people lost their lives in the LA riots of 1992. 63 people. We're only at 4 right now. We'll see how serious this gets over time. But over 12,000 people in the 1992 riots in South Central LA. Well, all of LA, but South Central was pretty well the basic middle ground for this whole riot situation there. 12,000 people were arrested. Okay, and this is the type of country that can dictate to other countries how to deal with things like what was going on in Hong Kong over the last year. I think the Chinese people were very patient, dealt with it as good as they could, held the vandalism and the killings and just all of the bad stuff to as much of a minimum as they possibly could, because protesters will do what they want until they have police presence that will arrest their asses and put them in jail. And now that they've got this new security agreement coming into place in Hong Kong, you won't see that again in Hong Kong. And if you do, it'll be squashed very quickly. It's just one of those things. I'm so disappointed in the administration of the United States in dealing with things as they did. Take a page out of the Miami Police Department book. When they were confronted with protesters because of George Floyd's murder, they took a knee, asked for forgiveness for the officers that killed this guy, and basically that was it. It was over. It was what the protesters were looking for, an apology, some acknowledgement of somebody doing something wrong by the authorities that actually did that. It's not saying the Miami police had anything to do with it, but you see, they handled it properly. And the rest of the police department's calling in the National Guard, Trump saying, when they start looting, we start shooting. See, that's the opposite of what should be done in a situation like this. And it's so disappointing to see this over and over and over again from this administration that just doesn't frickin' get it. Just before I came out to do this video, I got a voicemail from Alex from Reporter 5 Media, and he was sort of giggling because, you know, he sees the humor in a lot of things, and I saw the humor in this too. He says, at a demonstration, there was some people carrying Chinese flags and saying, China, help us. You know what I mean? It's like, China, help us. It's sort of like in Hong Kong where they're carrying the British flag or the American flag and saying, oh, Trump, come and help us. Oh, UK, come and help us. The same thing. So maybe the people that were flying the Chinese flags and saying this were joking. I would think that they would be. But the idea is that if it works for the goose, it works for the gander. What's good for the goose is good for the gander, and that's just the way it is. It's sad to see this happening in the United States. It's sad to see it happen anywhere in the world. It was sad to see it happening in Hong Kong. But things like this do happen, and I think when it comes down to understanding and making sure that everything is good in the long run, or you can minimize all of the tragedies that come out of stuff like this, how you deal with it, how your government deals with it, how the leaders of your community, your police forces, the people that make the decisions, how they deal with things like this makes a world of difference in the outcome of tragedies like we had. I watched a video this afternoon, quite disturbing, where some riders were trying to loot a FedEx semi-trailer, and he probably got scared and he stepped on it and dragged one of the protesters or one of the looters down the road, killing him type thing. It was a sad video to watch, and I wish I'd never watched it because now it's sort of planted in my brain. But things like this happen when civil unrest happens in any country, and it's one of those things that could have been avoided if the politicians, if the government, if the police departments all dealt with it properly. And by saying dealing with it properly, I say that those police that killed George should not have dealt with it like that. They should have been more professional. They should have had a heart. They should have understood what they were doing. The police officer that had his knee on George's neck for 9 minutes, guys, had many complaints against him prior to this. So it could have been avoided if the authorities that deal with police brutality would have stepped in at an earlier date. Anyway, this is something that's been really bugging me over the last couple of days, and I thought I'd get it off my chest. That's another video from Gweilo 60. If you like this video, as always, like, comment, subscribe, push that share button, and thanks for watching. Don't forget to resubscribe. YouTube's still taking away my boys and girls, my subscribers. And don't forget to hit the bell, and never forget to put a couple of bucks in the children's Patreon account. It's for a good cause. It's for poor rural Chinese children. They just need a helping hand, and we can give them that helping hand. Help me, help them. Thanks for watching. Bye now.